To you. I mean, just listening to that package, it was certainly another tough year for the motor industry with only a marginal improvement in local sales, and these industries are key to creating jobs.
Well, definitely, Natasha, with the disinvestment of GM as well, especially here in the Eastern Cape, it was a huge knock. And also looking at the fact that with them closing their doors, we could have lost almost 1,500 jobs. But with the new investment of Isuzu South Africa, which is 100% Isuzu now, manufacturing those bakkies, at least they've been able to save about 1,000 jobs. They look to invest a bit further in South Africa as well. But when we speak about investment in South Africa late last year, when you look that GM disinvested around May up until now, we've had a bit of a difficult time attracting investors to South Africa. But we're going to speak to DTI to tell us a bit more in terms of how important is it for South Africa to actually attract more investments, especially big companies such as Isuzu that look to actually even invest further in South Africa. Tell us a bit more about that, Garth.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. This is a very important investment by Isuzu. As you've mentioned, it was the old General Motors plant, which has been reopened, now fully owned by Isuzu. It's a vote of confidence in South Africa and South Africa's automotive sector. It will save 1,000 jobs. There have been very few job losses from the old General Motors closure, and 3,000 downstream jobs. The estimated production is 25,000 units, of which 15% are for the export market. And today we saw the launch of a new Isuzu product, an SUV. This is good news for South Africa. It's good news for our auto sector. It demonstrates that companies, large global companies like Isuzu, are in South Africa and expanding their operations for the long haul as a investment destination for the domestic market, and most importantly for our export market, especially Africa. So this is very good news for the country.
Garth, when we look at the bigger scheme of the picture in terms of government, DTI investments and companies, foreign companies that seek to come to South Africa. I mean, when we look at Japan companies, they actually mentioned that there are about over 140 Japanese companies that have already invested in South Africa. But specifically in the motor industry, in terms of the number of units that they have to meet in terms of requirement of government, also looking at the bigger scheme in terms of 2020 and policy changes.
Yes, it's a matter of public record that in a collaborative effort with the large manufacturers and component manufacturers, as well as the trade union NUMSA, we are developing an Automotive Master Plan 2020, which provides policy certainty for expanded investment and production in South Africa, and in a collaborative manner seeks to secure deeper industrialization, which is deeper localization and black economic empowerment in the supply chains. We've got a globally competitive automotive sector in South Africa. We must do everything possible to preserve it and to deepen that automotive industry, which means securing much greater levels of localization. And of course, the domestic market isn't big enough to support our automotive manufacturing sector, and therefore we have to secure greater and greater levels of export, which we are doing across a range of other OEMs, and we're very confident that Isuzu will achieve greater levels of export as well.
And then, Garth, just lastly, touching on the matter of export, Isuzu currently at about 15% of export of the bakkies that they'll be manufacturing here in South Africa. How important is it that we actually also strengthen the export market, looking that towards the end of last year there was a bit of a decline in our export markets as well? How important is it so that it assists these companies that choose to invest in South Africa but export to the remainder of Africa?
Okay, so if you look at our exports of fully made up vehicles, those are significant, but there's obviously a lot of room for improvement and scaling up export. But also take into account that our component exports for the after sales market, all the trade data, including into Africa, as you suggest, shows that our after sales exports are rapidly expanding as well. We are working with the OEMs to explore complementarities in assembly in other African countries, which is in our interests. The African market is essential to our future plans, especially the Auto Master Plan 2020, and we are busy working on ensuring that the tariff regime in the trade negotiations supports our automotive export and building complementarities with other African countries.
Thank you so much for all of that information, Garth. Well, there you have it, Natasha. That was the Deputy Director General of DTI telling us how important it is to actually link investment also to export to ensure that South Africa remains relevant and also competitive to the other African countries when we speak of our markets, and also ensuring stability for those foreign countries investing in South Africa. But for now, it's back to you guys in studio.
So much, Viwe Porti, live for us from Port Elizabeth.